Nisabullah Vinaka, Namaskar and good evening to all of you. It is indeed my great privilege and honor to join you all from the beautiful islands of Fiji on this very important occasion where we have gathered to launch the mission Rescuing Every Distressed Indian Overseas, or REDIO in short. This is a very welcome and timely initiative. Indian diaspora is one of the largest in the world. As you know, Government of India gives the highest priority and focus to the welfare of diaspora around the world. Therefore, the diaspora welfare related work is a core aspect of the work that is being done by the Indian missions and consulates around the world. A number of schemes are being implemented currently by the Indian missions and Indian agencies, covering all aspects: pre-departure, assistance during their stay abroad, and also when they return home finally after their stint abroad. But unfortunately, for a variety of reasons, information, proper awareness regarding this welfare programs and assistance that is being provided by the Government of India are not available with the intended target group. The last mile gap is due to a number of reasons, but it is important that fellow diaspora get into this and ensure that the last mile gap is closed. In this regard, this initiative to systematically bring in the diaspora to help bridge the last mile gap and to supplement the efforts of the Government of India and the Indian embassies and consulates abroad is a very noble initiative. I compliment the team behind this initiative and wish them all success in their endeavor. Thank you. Jai Hind.
As regards the precautions that Indians should take while visiting Poland and Lithuania, I would say the most important thing is, of course, to follow the law. Have your visas in order, have your papers in order, and follow the COVID instructions as they apply to the country. That is, of course, the most important thing. In general, I've had one big meeting with Indian students and I've heard their issues. They mostly relate to the usual student kind of things, accommodation and tuition fee waiver and things like that. And of course, we are responsive and we help. But as regards stranded Indians, we are able to do this with the alertness of the Indian community here, who keep track of what is happening. Sometimes it is the Indians who tell us that, okay, there seem to be Indians in distress here, students in distress. So it's often been a combined effort between the embassy and other members of the Indian community, and I'm grateful for that. And we've been together being of service to Indians in distress abroad.
Namaskar. I'm delighted to join you at this global launch of the REDIO initiative designed to help distressed Indians. This is a commendable civil society initiative which underlines that we are all in it together. Governments, civil society, Indian communities overseas. We have the same objective of helping our citizens when they are abroad. Over the last few years, we've seen a strong sensitivity in India's missions and consulates abroad to look after the welfare of Indian nationals and help those in distress. In this task of helping Indian citizens, we have a strong ally in the Indian diaspora in Canada, the Indian community organizations who are also concerned about and willing to help their brothers and sisters in trouble. To give the example of Canada, we have 1.7 million people of Indian heritage who are Canadian citizens and an additional up to 1 million Indian passport holders who come here on work permits or permanent residency or student or tourist visas. India is the biggest source country in all these sectors, the biggest source of human capital for Canada. We saw this crisis of stranded Indians when the pandemic broke out in 2020. The missions, the consulates, the community organizations in Canada geared up to help stranded nationals who were mainly students, and soon India started the Vande Bharat flights in the special air bubble. We saw recently the tragedy of an Indian family who lost their lives in the cold in Manitoba. This event highlights the kind of extremely dangerous situations Indians could face abroad when they migrate. We coordinated closely with Canadian authorities and community organizations to help the bereaved family. The long-term problem this underlines is the need for systems that make immigration a happy, a legal, a safe and secure experience. What we need at the levels of government perhaps is initiatives like mobility partnership agreements which promote legal immigration and discourage illegal acts. We also need to jointly investigate smuggling and trafficking rackets in humans. But civil society and the REDIO initiative can be very strong partners for our missions abroad in helping fellow citizens. We need to work out operational ideas in this broad initiative where missions and the local Indian communities are supported by civil society in India to help our citizens overseas. The REDIO initiative, I think, exemplifies the need for an active approach to achieve this synergy, and I wish all success to the Indian Diaspora Club in this new endeavor. Namaskar.
Namaskar. Honourable Minister of State Shri V. Muralidharanji, Honourable Ambassador Dr. Mallick and all the dignitaries present during today's event. Launch of REDIO, Rescuing Every Distressed Indians Overseas, is a great public initiative to help and support the Indian diaspora in distress. Having served in Saudi Arabia for 5 years and having served in the Middle East and the Gulf region for more than 10 years, I have seen very closely the desperation and the problems faced by our community in these countries, especially the workers. There are occasions when the workers lose their jobs, false claims are lodged against them, their employers don't renew their work permits. Sometimes they don't get salaries in time. They want to return home but they can't because the sponsors doesn't allow them to return. There may be harassment, assault, and there are many issues like this. In all such cases, the embassies are fully committed to help the Indian community. There is a fund, Indian Community Welfare Fund, through which we are able to help our people in distress. But the role of the community efforts and the community volunteers in these countries can't be underestimated. I would like to briefly recall one case in recent years which I handled. In 2018 in Saudi Arabia, there was a construction company, J&P, Jonao and Parakavidas. The company went bankrupt. It was an international company registered in UK. The owners were originally from Cyprus, but they were based in Greece and Switzerland. And one fine morning, the top management left the country and all the workers were left completely helpless. We had more than 5,000 Indian workers spread around the kingdom. The company had no liability because it went into the bankruptcy procedures. All the workers were left without money, no salaries, no compensation. Most of them didn't even have the papers in order to leave the country, as the company had not renewed their ikamas. It was a challenging situation. We approached the government of Saudi Arabia for help in getting these workers out of the kingdom. But the challenge was to support these workers till their exit actually materialized. And we had to arrange food and shelter and medical help for all these 5,000 Indian workers. It was a humongous task. And I have no hesitation in saying that the reason we succeeded in ensuring the welfare of these Indian workers was because we took the community along. We mobilized the volunteers who worked hand in hand with the embassy to ensure everything was arranged for these workers. And eventually these workers were able to leave the country and reach home safely. But such instances cement my faith in partnership the embassy and the community volunteers need to forge to help our diaspora in distress. We have community volunteers in many countries, but REDIO is the first global platform to help the Indians. The initiative is headed by Ambassador Dr. Mallick, one of the most distinguished foreign service officers. He has also worked as Secretary CPV and OIA, where he has seen the problems faced by the Indian diaspora very closely. I myself had a good fortune of working under Ambassador Mallick long back in Damascus, and I have learnt a lot from him. But the two most important things I learned from him are simplicity and the humility in whatever we do. And I have no doubt that with him on the top, Radio will become the top platform to help the Indian diaspora in distress and will greatly complement the efforts of Indian embassies and missions across the globe. It is a very welcome initiative and I wish it all the success. I also compliment the Indian Diaspora Club for being part of this initiative. I look forward to working closely with Radio wherever opportunities arise. Jai Hind. Namaskar.